Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Huri Amir, Head of Physiology Department, Faisalabad Medical University. Now, my dear students, as we have started the hypothalamus, and now we're going to learn about the control of anterior pituitary secretion, which is one of another function of hypothalamus, as it is releasing large number of releasing hormones as well as the inhibitory hormones. So you can say that it is actually controlling the release of hormones from anterior pituitary gland as well. So the hypothalamus is going to release a large number of releasing inhibitory hormones so that it is controlling the anterior pituitary hormones. Like it is controlling the gonadotrophin releasing hormone, which is acting on the pituitary gland and releasing the follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Then growth hormone releasing hormone is releasing the growth hormone. Then growth hormone inhibitory hormone or somatostatin is inhibiting the release of growth hormone. So hypothalamus is also releasing the corticotropin releasing hormone, releasing the adrenocorticotrophic hormones from the adrenal cortical gland, and it is controlling the release of adrenal cortical hormones. Hypothalamus releasing the thyrotropin releasing hormone, releasing the secretion of thyroid gland, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. Hypothalamus is releasing the prolactin inhibitory hormone and is inhibiting the prolactin secretion as well. Temperature regulation is one of the function of hypothalamus. A thermostat at a certain temperature so that accordingly the body temperature is regulated, and normally the thermostat is 98.4 degree Fahrenheit. Now when the temperature of body increases, there is stimulation of temperature decreasing mechanisms. In what are they? They are sweating and cutaneous vasodilatation. Now when the temperature of the body decreases with respect to the thermostat temperature, the temperature increasing mechanisms they are stimulating. What are they? Shivering, cutaneous vasoconstriction, and chemical thermogenesis. Shivering center is in the posterior hypothalamus, which is normally kept inhibited. Now, control of behavior and emotions is one of the other functions which is very important of that of hypothalamus. And what are these feelings, emotions, behavior? The feeling of fear, rage, punishment, reward, they're also being controlled by the hypothalamus. Now there are two basic aspects of emotion. One is the mental aspect and the other one is the physical aspect. Now the mental aspect is consisting of the cognition, the affect, and conation. For example, is the bomb blast happening? Cognition is affecting as on hearing the noise, the person recognizes that there is explosion of bomb, that the person is due to the intelligence, the person is aware of the fact that what has happened, and the effect is that the person is immediately very much frightened, and the conation is that the person what wants, what is needed, what is the demand of that time is that the person wants to have some shelter to save life. Now the physical involvement is that there is activity of skeletal muscles, the viscera, there is coordinated activity of autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system, and the person may run, and the blood pressure and the heart rate, they do increase. So there is actually cooperation, coordination. Now the location of punishment and reward centers in the hypothalamus and limbic system. That is, the punishment center is located in the periventricular zone surrounding hypothalamus and thalamus, periaqueductal gray matter, and amygdala hippocampus, whereas the reward center is over there in the lateral part of the nucleus of hypothalamus, ventromedial nucleus of hypothalamus. Now, the response to stimulation of punishment and reward centers in hypothalamus and other parts of limbic system. Now, what is the response of the punishment center? It is that there is a feeling of fear, anxiety, punishment, increased heart rate, tachycardia, increased breathing, tachypnea, pupillary dilatation. There is widening of palpebral fissure. There is piloerection. There is sweating. There is pallor of skin and tremors. And reward center responses that there is feeling of pleasure, feeling of reward. Now, the response to the strong stimulation of punishment center in animals, the rage reaction. What is rage? Rage is anger. Animal adopts a defensive posture. And what is that? There is extending of the claws, lifting the tail, there is a growl, there's a hissing sound, and just the slight provocation, and the animal is going to attack. In the normal animal, the rage phenomena is held in check mainly by the inhibitory signals from the ventromedial nuclei of the hypothalamus. So we can say that this rage control mechanism is actually one of the functions which are rendered by means of hypothalamus. Now, the experimental evidence of punishment and reward centers. Experiment was carried out over there in the monkeys, and the monkey is kept in cage and the electrodes were implanted in different parts of the limbic system. Now, in the cage there was a lever or a handle provided to the monkey, and when the handle is pressed, the electrode in the certain part is stimulated. Now, if the electrode is in the punishment center and presses, the animal gets a feeling of fear and anxiety and will avoid pressing the lever. If it is connected to reward center, he feels pleasure and he continues to press the lever. So the conclusion is this, that those sensory experiences, they are kept in the memory which are accompanied by punishment or reward. Now, when the reward center is stimulated in animal, he becomes tame and placid and soft and friendly. And now, what is this importance of reward or punishment on behavior? The importance of reward or punishment in learning and memory, the effect of tranquilizers on reward and punishment centers. What is habituation versus reinforcement? The specific functions of other parts of limbic system. Now, the hippocampus is the elongated portion of the cerebral cortex that folds inward to form the ventral surface of much of the inside of lateral ventricle. One end of hippocampus abuts the amygdaloid nuclei, and along its lateral border, it is fusing with the parahippocampal gyrus, which is the cerebral cortex on the ventromedial outside surface of temporal lobe. The hippocampus and the adjacent temporal and parietal lobe together all are known as hippocampal formation, and it has numerous and many indirect connections with many portions of the cerebral cortex, as well as with the basal structures of limbic system, the amygdala, hypothalamus, septum, and mammillary bodies. Almost any type of sensory experience causes the hippocampus to distribute many outgoing signals to anterior thalamus, hypothalamus, and the other parts of the limbic system. The hippocampus is an additional channel through which incoming sensory signals can initiate behavioral reactions for different purposes. Stimulation of different areas in the hippocampus, they cause the pleasure, rage, passivity, or excessive sex drive. So, you can be asked about what is the function of hippocampus. Another feature of hippocampus is that it can become hyper-excitable. For example, the weak electrical stimuli they can cause the focal epileptic seizures in small areas of the hippocampi and persist for many seconds after the stimulation is over. Now, during the hippocampal seizures, the person experiences various psychomotor effects like olfactory, visual, tactile, auditory, and other type of hallucinations which cannot be suppressed as long as a seizure persists, even though the person has not lost consciousness and knows these hallucinations to be unreal. So probably one of the reasons for this hyperexcitability of the hippocampi is that they have a different type of cortex from that elsewhere in the cerebrum, with only 3 nerve cell layers in some of its areas instead of the 6 layers. So you can be asked about that why it is hyperexcitability caused in hippocampus in compared to the different areas of cerebrum. Now, role of hippocampus in learning. The effect of bilateral removal of hippocampi leads to inability to learn. So we can be asked about that the person is having inability to learn if there is the ablation of this hippocampus. They can be surgically removed in human beings for the treatment of epilepsy, and these people they can recall previously learned memories satisfactorily. They often can learn essentially no new information which is based on verbal symbolism. In fact, they often cannot learn even the names of people with whom they come in contact every day. They can remember for a moment or so that transpires during the course of their activities. They are capable of short-term memory for seconds, up to a minute or two, although there is ability to establish the memories. So if you are being asked about a scenario which is showing that there is anterograde type of memory loss, then the answer is that there is some lesion or removal of hippocampus. Theoretical function of hippocampus in learning. The hippocampus originated as part of the olfactory cortex. In many lower animals, this cortex plays essential roles in determining whether the animal will eat a particular food, whether the smell of particular objects suggests danger, or whether the odor is sexually inviting, thus making decisions that are of life or death importance. Very early in evolutionary development of the brain, the hippocampus presumably became a critical decision-making neuronal mechanism, determining the importance of the incoming sensory signals. Once this critical decision-making capability had been established, presumably, the remainder of the brain also began to call on the hippocampus for decision-making. If the hippocampus signals that a neuronal input is important, the information is likely to be committed to memory. A person rapidly becomes habituated to indifferent stimuli but learns constantly any sensory experience that causes either pleasure or pain. But what is the mechanism by which this occurs? So we are going to do this in detail, inshallah, tomorrow. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.